Hi everyone, Tim at Broken Dice, bringing a quick little channel update. I'm going to start doing a series of videos on my channel concerning strategy and tactics. I'm going to be focusing mainly on the indirect approach to problem solving. As you can see here, this is this poor book here I've read so many times. It has many examples of it in there. All these are great books. I highly recommend them if you're interested in strategy, grand strategy, strategic operations, and tactical operations. All these books are very good. But what I'm going to do is I want to narrow my focus in these videos and just be searching out the indirect approach instead of frontal assaults all the time and glorious frontal charges and stuff. I'm going to look at maneuvering into a position that creates a dislocation of the enemy and causes them to change their tactical stance from offense to defense. And that is kind of the nutshell of my theory. It has to have those aspects. Now, there are substrata to that, to where we're going to look at what caused them to go from offense to defense, what was threatened, what was used to put an enemy force in that position where they had to decide that, well, we now have to go on the defensive, or we have to move. It causes that dislocation. Now, just because you do an indirect approach, that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be successful. There are some examples in history, many of them, where an indirect approach was tried, it was foiled, and it was turned into a tremendous defeat for those trying it. There are certain aspects of an indirect approach that have to exist for it to be successful, and that's what we're going to look at. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my parameters for myself so I don't get too carried away, and I'm going to use Osprey's campaign series as just kind of my guidebooks through this. And I've got like I think I've got up to the first 80 or 90 of them in order, and probably after that I tend to cherry pick the time periods that I'm either gaming or I have some sort of interest in or something like that. But anyway, the very first book we're going to take a dive into is this one. And that is a pretty healthy bite, because there's an awful lot to unravel in this. But we are going to look for an example of the indirect approach and whether it was successful or not. And that's going to be the first video. And I'm going to probably do one of these every week or other week, depending on, how life throws at me. I don't want to make it I don't want to make my hobby and my interests a job. It doesn't interest me that much. But I think it'll be fun as a group. We can talk, we can exchange ideas in the comments, and you can tell me if you think I'm just full of it, or you think, well, you may have a point. And if you've got a different idea, a different theory about what the indirect approach to problem solving is, let me know. And maybe by the time we get through a good third to a half of these, we'll all have a really good idea what makes a successful indirect approach. And it could be that my hypothesis and my theory doesn't hold water. Maybe it's something completely different, but that's what we're going to be looking for. And hopefully I'll get some engagement from everyone, because that's most important in our community is engagement and having conversations and connection. All right, that brings us to the end of this video. If you're going to like this sort of thing and you think this is a good idea, leave a comment down below. You got some friends, share this around, get an idea of what you guys want. And I'm going to put these things out, and then we can start a discussion. I'm going to get off here. I don't want this to go on very long, but just give me an idea of what I'm going to be doing here in the future. Everybody stay safe, stay well, and I will see you next time.